Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to this video, and this is the fourth video in this monitoring series. In this video I'm going to show you how you can add your first client to your CheckMK server. So from my previous video you would have noticed that I've got the CheckMK server running on Ubuntu 18.04, and in this video I'll first show you how to install the CheckMK agent on CentOS 7 virtual machine, and then I'll show you how you can add that from your dashboard. If you're using Nagios, then you'll be used to adding changing the configuration file to add a new host, or if you have used any other front end, you would have done it from the web interface. I'll show you how you can do it in CheckMK, and then I'll show you how to install the agent on an Ubuntu client. So first, let's go ahead and power up the CentOS 7 virtual machine, which is CentOS VM 02. So cd to play directory, cd to OMD monitoring, and then to Vagrant provisioning. If I do Vagrant status, there are 4 virtual machines. Ubuntu VM 01 is running, so now I'm going to power on CentOS VM 02. So if you want to have this virtual machine Vagrant setup, so you can get the Vagrant file from my GitHub repository, which is git clone github.com, just me an open source OMD monitoring, and it will also be in the link description. So Vagrant up CentOS VM 02. Okay, so Vagrant has provisioned the CentOS VM 02 virtual machine for us. Let me log into it. Vagrant SSH CentOS VM 02. ATC Red Hat release. So that's a CentOS 7.6 virtual machine. So now we have the Ubuntu VM running CheckMK server, and we have the CentOS VM as a client. And let's see how we can add this to the monitoring. So we're going to monitor this server from the CheckMK server on Ubuntu. Okay, so what you need here is we need to download the RPM file for this, and I'm also going to install. This is not mandatory, just to see and just to show you which port the agent is running on. I'm going to install nettools, which gives me the command line netstat. I'm used to using netstat, but you can also use ESS, which is already available. Okay, sudo netstat minus nlcp. We haven't got anything apart from the postfix and the SSH service. Okay, so now why would you download the agent? So on Linux machines, the way that CheckMK works is you've got the CheckMK server, and you have to install the agent on all the Linux machines. And basically what it does is the agent runs the service locally on the machine, and then it sends the output back to the CheckMK server. So when you're going to add this host to the CheckMK server, what it does is the CheckMK server contacts the agent on this virtual machine to get the list of available service checks available on this machine. So this CheckMK agent on this machine will give to CheckMK server back the inventory of service checks that it can do on this host. So that's what we are going to do. But before that, we need to download the agent, CheckMK agent, and install it. So it's available from the CheckMK server itself. So let's verify whether our site is running. Production. So that's running, and if I go to the web browser, http ubuntu VM01 production, you can see that it's the HTTPS, which I showed in the previous video how to install the SSL certificate. And on the sidebar here, if you go to monitoring agents, is it monitoring agents? It should be available here. Okay, so check MK and you can type in the URL itself. Just type agents, and there you go. So we are on CentOS 7, so we need to download the RPM package. Check MK agent RPM. Copy the link address. Let's download it. I don't think we will have wget. We don't have it, so let's install wget sudo m install wget and wget and the URL. To connect to Ubuntu VM use minus minus. So since we enabled HTTPS, you're going to pause this minus minus no check certificate. Okay, so we've got that RPM, so let's install it. Sudo yum install checkmk RPM y. Okay, so that's installed. So when you install it, it's going to give you checkmk agent command line, checkmk underscore agent. So there it is, and the directories it's going to install, directories it has installed, let's see, rpm minus ql check mk agent, rpm minus qa grep check mk. Okay, so anyway, if you run check mk agent, it's going to give you lots of details. And if I grep for local, so that's the local directory, user lib checkmk agent. Okay, so it has checkmk installed, and let's see whether it's running. So one requirement is you need to have zinod installed. No, I should have done that before. So we should install zinod first. Sudo yum install zinod ls etc zinod.d checkmk. There it is. Okay, so let's see if zinod is running. Sudo systemctl status zinod. It's enabled, but it's not running at the moment. Sudo systemctl start zinod. And if we look at the status, it's running. And ls sudo vi etc zinod.d checkmk. So that's the zinod configuration for checkmk service, and the port it will be listening on, the agent will be listening on, is 6556 TCP protocol. And disable no, which means the service is currently enabled. And the other thing I wanted to tell you here while I'm here is only from. So this agent will be listening, and if you want to restrict this agent to respond to request only from a particular server, you can uncomment this one and change the value to the IP address of your checkmk server, so that if you don't do that, if it's still commented out, it's going to respond to any requests coming from any checkmk server or any machine. So if you set this IP address just to the checkmk server, it will respond to only one checkmk server. So that's a good practice. So our checkmk server has the IP address 172.42.42.211. I'm going to copy that and paste it here. So it's going to respond to request only from our checkmk server. Okay, and sudo systemctl restart zinod. That's done. And sudo netstat -nlcp, it's listening on port 6556, so we need to enable that port in our firewall. If I do sudo systemctl status firewall d, it's disabled at the moment, but if it's enabled, The command to open this port is sudo firewall cmd minus minus permanent minus minus add port 6556 slash TCP, and then you have to run sudo firewall cmd minus minus reload. So given my firewall is disabled at the moment, I don't have to run these two commands. But if you've got firewall enabled, uh, don't forget to open the firewall port for 6556. Otherwise, the checkmk server won't be able to contact this agent on this port. Okay, so that's running. Now we can go to the web interface and add this host. Okay, I'm going to go to the WAT2 configuration, which is Web Administration Tool. Go to Host. I'm going to create a new host. Host name CentOS VM02. Permission, I'm going to leave that to default. Monitored on site. So if you've got multiple sites, you can specify which site. So at the moment there is only one site called production. So I'm just going to leave that to the default. IP address. So let's put the IP address of that machine, which is 172.42.42.222, I think. Yep. And checkmk agent. Contact either the checkmk agent, data source, no SNMP. Okay, so let's save and finish. So when you click that, you see your host has been created and there's one change pending. As I told in my previous videos, whenever you do a change in checkmk, it stages the change until you activate that change. Okay, so that's one change, and now we need to do a service discovery. We need to query the agent on CentOS VM02, which will give us an inventory of service checks that it can do on that host. So for that, you can either click here, Service Discovery, or you can click this icon here, edit the services of this host, do a service discovery. So let's do a service discovery. So it has found these services. So these are all the default services that comes bundled with the checkmk agent. So it looks at the CPU load, utilization, disk IO, file system usage, interface 2, interface 3, because we've got two interfaces, H0, ATH1, network statistics, some kernel parameters, memory utilization, mount options, number of processes, TCP connections, uptime, and so on. Okay, so these are all the available services. So which service do you want to monitor on this host? You need to enable those services. So for example, if you want to enable the CPU load, you have to click this green icon, move to monitored services, or move to disable services if you don't want to monitor a particular service. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to monitor all the services that the agent says that it's available. So for that, you don't have to click every single green icon. You can just click the monitor icon. So that's going to monitor all the changes. So all of them are monitored at the moment. And there are two changes. If I click that, the first change is the new host. So we have added the new host CentOS VM02 and the configuration. So we have found what are all the service checks available. There are 16 checks available and we have added all of them to be monitored. Now I'm going to do activate affected. And it's activating. So now it's success. So now if I go to hosts, and you can see the details here. And if I go to the home directory, checkmk, you can see the earth ball is completely green, which means all the services are okay, so that we don't have any problems. So host statistics, we have one host at the moment, and we've got 18 services monitored. There's a quick search if you want to search for a host, CentOS VM. So that's the service of the host CentOS VM02. If we go there, service statistics 18, host is 1. If I click on the services, um, total services 18. So they're all in the pending state. It should be available shortly. Okay, so check MK and going to the total 18 services. Cool. And some of the services has come online. The status is okay. And there are a few checks that are still pending. Um, so by default, the checks are performed every minute as opposed to 5 minutes in Nagios. In Nagios, the default interval for every service check is 5 minutes, but here it is 60 seconds. So as you can see here, all the checks that we've enabled are returning data. And the icons here, for example, CPU load, there are a couple of icons here. So one is the actions. So you can reschedule the check service if you have made some configuration changes, and if you want to do a check on this service, reschedule the next available check. Instead of waiting for the automated check, you can do a reschedule check here. The age tells you how long ago the check was done, the previous check was done. So the previous check was like 30 seconds ago. And there's a little graph icon here that shows you the RRD stats. So that's the metrics collected. So in addition to monitoring, it's also used for displaying the metrics. You can click in here, or you can click this graph here. So these graphs are called performeter. So you can basically get an idea of individual service, so how the CPU load is behaving. So at the moment, the CPU load is 0.1, and you can see the bar here, the network statistics, and all those details. Number of threads 102 at the moment. So you can click on this graph to see the RRD graph here, and that's a lot of graphs. And you can select the time ranges for the last 25 hours, 1 week, 1 month, and so on. You can do custom searches in here. So basically that's it. That's how. And there is one warning here. And if you've got any problems, you will see it here, the number of problems. So there's currently one service that's in the warning state. And these are all the list of events for the last 4 hours. So let's see what this warning is about. And if you look at this, the Earth, and there's something that's not quite right, and there is a warning. Yellow is warning, red is critical. So there are 18 services, and one service is in warning state, which is the CheckMK Discovery. Okay, let's click that service, and it says warning, one unmonitored service cronny. Okay, so let's go to the hosts, and we've got one host added, and 17 services are okay, one service is in warning. Let's click that. Cronny. So there is a service cronny which is not monitored. Okay, so let's go back to the host and do a service discovery again. And you can see here NTP cronny. Yeah, the check plugin is cronny, so which is not monitored. So let's add it to the monitoring. Okay. Did I just click? Okay, so monitor. So we've monitored everything at the moment. 3 changes, activate affected changes. So now that one warning should be gone. Check MK, still it's there. Let's refresh it. Refresh it again. So basically we have to wait for that 60-second period. Check MK, let's reschedule the check. It's doing a okay, so now check MK discovery is green, which means we are good. And the earth is back to full green, so we don't have any problems at the moment. And these are all the list of events. So we had this warning 141 seconds ago, and that got rectified, resolved 6 seconds ago. So that's how you add a host to monitoring. So now let's go back and add a Ubuntu client. Going back to the terminal, Vagrant status. Okay, so we've got the Ubuntu VM01, so that's the CheckMK server. CentOS VM02, so that's the client we added now. And now let's add the Ubuntu VM02. So I'm going to bring up that box now. Vagrant up Ubuntu VM02. Okay, the machine has been provisioned. Let's log into that VM. Vagrant SSH Ubuntu VM02. LSB release. So it's Ubuntu 1804. Which wget cool? We have wget. Which zinerd? We don't have it, so we need to install zinerd sudo apt get update first. Right now, sudo apt get install zinerd. Sudo systemctl status zinerd. Okay, so it's running. So now we need to download the CheckMK agent from the CheckMK server. If I delete everything after CheckMK and type agents, so we have this Debian package here. Copy the link address, wget with minus minus no check certificate because we have enabled self-signed certificate. No check certificate. Okay, so that's copied. Again, we are going to use gdb to install this package. Sudo apt get install gdb core. And now sudo gdb checkmk agent. Yes. Okay, so that's installed. Sudo netstat minus nltp 6556. It's running, and you will see the zinerd configuration under zinerd.d checkmk. So that's there. So now we can go to the dashboard and add this host. Okay, so now we have one host and we are going to add the second host. Go to the hosts under the WAR2 configuration. So we have a CentOS host. Now we are adding an Ubuntu host. New host, host name Ubuntu VM02, and IP address is 172.42.42.212. Save and finish. So there is one change, which is adding this host. And now let's do a service discovery. You can either click this icon or service discovery link here. So that has given us the list of services. The agent has given us the list of services that it can check on the Ubuntu host. You can add individual services, or if you want to monitor all the services that it gave us, just click this monitor. Two changes: activate affected. Okay, so that's done. If I go to the home page, so now there are 2 hosts and 37 services monitored. Okay, let's check the status of the hosts. So there is CentOS VM02, 19 services, all of them are green. Okay, and Ubuntu VM02, the host itself is up, so that's basically from the ping test. And you can see lots of graphs for CentOS VM02, and there are actions that you can do: edit this host, download agent output, and so on. And PD is pending. and you can see OK state, warning, unknown, critical, and pending. And there are 18 services that are in the pending state. So let's wait for it for a few seconds, and then it should show us all the services. Okay, so it's still in the pending state, and it should show all the services shortly. Okay, so I think it's all good now. If I go to all the services, so that's basically from CentOS VM02 where all the services are good, and Ubuntu VM02, the services are coming up. There are a few that are in the pending state. There is one warning: VBox guest editions is not installed, or it says the VBox guest edition version installed is 5.2.18. Host has, I don't know what this means, but there is some warning about the VBox guest edition. And as you can see here, there's no VBox guest edition service check for CentOS VM02. So depending on the host, the CheckMK agent will give you the list of service checks that it can do on that host. So let's go back to the home page, and there is one warning at the moment. Service VBox guest edition warning. Okay, so there is a manual for this. This check uses VBox control to query the version and revision of the guest editions installed in a VirtualBox Linux guest. If no guest editions are installed at all, the check will get critical. If the version and revision of the guest editions do not match the version and revision of the VirtualBox host, the check will warn. Okay, so while using VirtualBox, I didn't update the VirtualBox guest edition, so whatever it shows at the moment, so 2 hosts are up, total 37 services, 36 services are looking good, and there is one warning which is about the VBox guest editions, which I don't really care. And if you want, you can go to hosts, edit the service discovery, and you know what, I'm going to move this to disabled services. One change, activate affected change. And if I go to CheckMK, now we can see the earth is full green, there are no problems. 36 services monitored, and 36 are all in good shape. Okay, cool. So that's how you add a host to monitoring. So these are Linux hosts. So these are agent. You can also have agentless monitoring. You don't have to install agent. So for example, for devices like switches, routers, and for network devices, they've got this SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol or something. So that sends signals. So we can capture that signal. We don't have to install any agent on the target device that we are going to monitor. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to show you in this video. If you've got any questions or any comments about this, please leave me a comment. I should be able to respond to you. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I've got a few more videos in this series waiting to be uploaded every Monday. And thanks again for your time watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.